The real test. Here's what I know so far in situation, keeping it vague to keep it short but can provide more details as needed. WS and I have been married for over a decade and have an elementary school-age child. WS had been periodically in infrequent Facebook contact with First Love for a few years at a distance of over 1,000 miles. This year, due to some verifiable circumstances in the AP's life, this infrequent contact by Facebook turned into hours and hours on the phone and texting for support. WS did not hide this contact but became very defensive when challenged on the time and emotional effort being expended. Insisted no possible threat to our marriage because WS would not leave me. A couple of months ago I overheard a whispered declaration of love. Immediately confronted WS, she was apologetic but brought up missing elements of our marriage, various things I had done that hurt WS emotionally, etc. Asked to continue support for a P through a specific point in time when it would no longer be needed and promised to scale back contact. I reluctantly agree. After reading the forums looking back on this, I realized virtually everything WS said at the time was said. For a while, WS seems to hold to this promise. Going back and reviewing phone and message data shows a reduction in contact time and intensity. However, last night I again overheard another, and unprompted, declaration of love on the phone when WS didn't realize I was in the room. I immediately confronted and made WS hang up phone and told WS that was it. There was to be no more contact. WS agreed. I then called AP, who hung up immediately when they heard my voice, and left several voicemails. I demanded to see WS phone and email accounts. WS allowed this with no pushback. While WS had been deleting text logs and email, I found more than enough material since WS last delete to leave absolutely no doubt as to the situation. I told WS to make screenshots of the text and forward me the emails and these screenshots. WS did both of these things again without pushback. I told WS my intention is to contact AP and tell them any contact from them, at all, will result in the material I have in my possession going directly to their spouse, kids, and family, which is highly likely to end the AP's marriage. I told WS any contact from her to AP and it is going to our extended family. This morning I've gone back and looked at phone records. While I knew WS was spending a lot of time on the phone with AP, I had no idea exactly how bad it was. I've read through the newbie thread and will present WS with both a no-contact agreement and a no-contact letter template and see how it goes. Anything else I should be doing on D-Day +1. AP is married, AP's spouse is suspicious. I was thinking that the threat of exposure would do more than actual exposure to prevent AP from attempting contact. Our marriage has been lacking in physical intimacy for 3 to 4 years due largely to psychological and physical issues WS has been going through. But up until last year I would have said we were a strong and supportive partnership. Comments. One thing that has been proven over and over again is that an E will go physical if there is any possibility that they can meet up. In the stunned, confused state of mind you are in right now, you don't want to hear this and you don't even want to know if it's true. But very soon the question of was it physical will be very important to you. Your wife will deny absolutely everything that she believes you cannot prove. Everything. Now that you warned AP, you have given them ample opportunity to get their stories straight and make your digging harder. That's a big reason why you should tell his wife about it. She can help put the timeline together and look for obvious opportunities for them to hook up. Another big reason is that exposing to the other BS helps end the affair right now. Yes, many will say you must tell OBS just to be a good person, but really, you need to think a bit selfishly right now. You tell her to get information so you can determine what's best for you and help you with the very tough decisions you are going to need to make over the next few weeks and months. The fact that she can't stay away from this guy is obviously a huge issue. First love is one of the most powerful forces in the universe and, frankly, you should consider letting her go so she can't be with him. Research shows that when couples like this reattach later in life they have very strong, happy marriages. I'm not saying this to hurt you, just telling you that the divorce option might end up being the best for both of you and be an opportunity to cut your losses and avoid a long, painful, but doomed, reconciliation effort. Remember one thing above all others, she is lying to you about everything. The wife responds, he left out a very important detail. The reason the marriage is no non-physical is because he's never been able to keep it up during bonding. He has no idea what good bonding is, and he's never learned the art of seduction. This has been going on since before we were married. He's made zero effort to up his game, and it's likely he never will. I've tried, but I married a guy who had maybe had successful bonding 3 to 4 times prior to our marriage. I used to try to get him to understand that bonding was important to me, and he would take a few half measures which were awkward and, quite frankly, sucked, and at some point, I just gave up trying. This business about me not being able to bond due to physical and psychological reasons is a complete lie. I married him because he has a lot of wonderful qualities, and I honestly thought we could work on the bonding thing. On that, I was very wrong. For a long time, he wouldn't even talk about it. When he got over that, slightly, any suggestion I would make he took extremely literally. He has always depended on porn to get off. I'm not a child. I understand the attraction to porn and I've never objected to him watching it. I did, however, point out that it was likely getting in the way of having a healthy, genuine physical life. He agrees but hasn't made any changes. What I would have liked is for him to research how to create a genuinely erotic experience for me. I don't know what's out there for men, but I'm sick of having to hold his hand. Another thing he glossed over is that the other man was diagnosed with congestive heart failure 2 weeks after we started talking on the phone. His wife is suffering from some major effects of a disease she contracted while working in a less developed country. It's so bad that she takes meds for at least 5 other major health issues. She does not have the capacity to care for him, and he's more or less okay with that. But he did and does appreciate having someone to talk to. Yes, he has a therapist, but he's a proud guy and did not want his coworkers, friends to know about it. Why don't I just divorce my husband if I love someone else? Because I have the capacity to love both him and the other man. Yes, I love them both. Finally, the other man was my first love, and I was his. If you read up on it, that's a very powerful bond, and the other man is the only man in the world who could have possibly breached the husband-wife barrier for me. My husband knows all of this, and I've even told him that there will always be residual love between me and the other man. It's impossible to deny. I know this is difficult for this forum to understand, but the situation is complex. I'm actually very surprised that he resorted to a message board to try and sort out this problem, and yet I'm not. He quite literally downloaded some no-contact letters and duplicated the formula laid out by some of the contributors here. Every day I now toss him my phone so he can go through it. He makes sure I don't change my passcode, etc. Comment: you are completely unsatisfied in your marriage, but the man you're infatuated with has heart disease, won't leave his ailing wife, and lives halfway across the country. Both of you are living in a dream world, and neither of you is the least bit happy here. And you are both completely stuck because neither of you are taking any definitive action to either correct the problems or leave. OP, you haven't been addressing your ed and lack of ability to take care of your wife. And Princess, you're spending your time being a keyboard warrior with some dude that can't even breathe heavy halfway across the country that you used to get it on with in the past. At least if you picked up dudes in the local tavern, you'd be having actual bonding in the real world. You're both stuck in a rut and you're both just spinning your wheels and you're both miserable. But hey, you at least have something in common, right? So why not work together and find solutions so that you can both be happy and lead healthy and productive lives? You can both go to bonding camp together and learn to function physical together so you can each push each other's buttons properly. Or you can work together for an amicable and cooperative divorce so you each can move on to find someone that you are more compatible with and get on better with. Either of those solutions is valid. But what you got going on now obviously isn't working. Wife responds: he was my first love when I was 14. Read up, if you can read, on how powerful that bond can be. Not for everyone, but it sure was for us. And not that I feel much need to justify this, but his parents got divorced and he had to move. Neither set of parents supported our relationship because what parents care about teenage relationships? There was no internet or texting back then, so that was it. I can't even believe I had to explain that. Let's do the calculus, shall we? 14 years old, high school and college to finish, job and then grad school. Unless you're from the hollers, 14-year-olds don't generally marry their boyfriends. And while we're at it, he didn't need me to support him regarding his medical issues. He received a figurative kick in the gut by getting a terrible diagnosis, and his wife is too whacked out on meds to cook, clean, take the trash out, etc. Much less give a rat's behind about his illness because she has her illness. She's never going to recover, for reasons too numerous to get into here, and he's been taking care of her for years. She can't or won't return the favor. He gets a little happiness chatting with me, and I'm capable of showing some sympathy. So, everyone can shut the hell up about my husband's whiny post about being emotionally betrayed. He caught me telling a very, very dear friend that I loved him. Do I still fantasize about him? You better believe it. We never got to do the deed, and since I'm not getting anything on the home front, it's easy to imagine us finding a way to hook up. My husband posted here in a moment of weakness, and the mountain of crap that was said about me was effing shocking. My husband left out key issues regarding our marriage. I tried to straighten them out, and it was an impossible task. I'm not a piece of property. I don't need to be taken to a doctor by any man to be checked out. He lied, as I have stated earlier. I'm not the one with the dysfunction. I'm quite certain that if he had told the truth about that, at least a few of the participants here would have had a few more suggestions for him instead of suggesting that I'm the problem. OM and I have never gotten it on. Ever. And the idea of BS and me going to bonding camp. He would never. OP said that divorce is one of the most financially catastrophic decisions a couple can make. To quote OP, he's messed up. It happened long before I entered the picture. He told me he posted here. He showed me his post. I read it and asked him straight up why he lied about who was the problem. He's not dumb. He knew exactly what he was doing to garner the most sympathy. He admitted it. Comment: your 6-month emotional affair is just as harmful as 12 years of not just a non-physical marriage, but him not caring about it nor doing anything about it. Own your crap. The state of your marriage is in disrepair due to each of your selfish actions. Moreover, stop trying to minimize the effect of your 6 months of mostly harmless conversation. It was an affair. If your mostly harmless conversation with your affair partner had no negative effect on your marriage, why was OP writing this? I understand that you're frustrated and angry, but that doesn't abdicate your responsibility for the state of your marriage. You need to own your crap as much as OP needs to own his. If this situation cannot be resolved in a reasonable time frame, then both of you need to put your adult pants on and separate. As far as OP is concerned, none of what I said before had anything to do with his dignity. I think the reason you want me to stop pushing is because I'm calling you out on the fact that you need to grow up and own your affair. So, instead of openly admitting that, you ask that I not call you out by couching it in the terms of trying to save OP some face. You're pretty easy to see through. I've walked through bullcrap much deeper than yours, Snowflake. Wife responds, how's this? After 12 years of nothing, I get woken up in the middle of the night. He did something nasty. He's lucky I didn't call the police. So, you go right ahead and tell me that talking on the phone is anywhere near as degrading and disgusting as that. No consent. It took so little time I barely had time to react, which is good, because I would have punched him in the X. And if you think I deserve that after what I'd done, he had plenty of time before the night before last to prove his point. My comment, I hear so much anger and disappointment as I read your writing. Why not free yourself? Money, things, lifestyle. You have the keys to unlock and end this suffering. Why live a contemptuous life with someone who is a spouse on paper alone? The bitterness and resentment you exhale are not doing either of you any good. I would tell OP the same thing. You can't live with each other just to maintain a certain lifestyle. Story 2. It has been a week or so from D-Day 2. I am slowly recovering from shock of this second betrayal and what is clearly an EA and mild PA, holding hands, kissing his cheeks, who knows what else. I don't believe there was bonding. The last few days, I have been in 180. Hard as it has been, it has felt good to feel empowered and strong again. It has given me something to focus on and not wallow in self-pity. I had this exchange with DS this morning. Don't overthink it, but we have to the hard work of figuring out the holes and fixing them. Otherwise, we will be right here again. This is an opportunity. Whether or not this situation is fixable is not baked in. It depends on our future commitment to actions, behavior and attitude changes. DS comments such as that are not helpful. I am happy to check out too. Try to keep your negative thoughts to yourself. Me, I understand. I thought I was being positive. What did you mean by check out? DS, it feels that you have left the relationship. We are strangers in a house together. That is checked out. I understand why, and I respect that you need to figure out what you want. I am prepared to pay for my inappropriate actions. I make no excuses. I am sorry that it hurt you and our family. I made a mistake and I hope you can forgive me. But if you are unable, which I see being a very real possibility, then I will move forward, as will you. As usual, I have no intention of wasting years of suffering over one pseudo-indiscretion. I hope that we will move forward cooperatively. Thoughts? I chose not to respond, but what would you do? Do DS usually give up their manipulativeness and selfishness as a result of proper R? Does the alpha position change as a result? 180 has held up about as well as can be expected, 2 weeks from DD. Let's call it a modified, slightly angry 180, with 1 or 2 lapses. She texts me today and asks to hang out later tonight. What do you guys think? I am tempted to say yes and spend the time listening. We haven't talked at all or a week, and I'd like to know what is going on. I don't believe there is anything else happening. I believe she has had a couple of hard conversations with her friends and she understands what she has to lose. She is going through fog withdrawal. She says she has right days of NC. I don't know one way or another. An update from this morning. So, it has been a night and morning of conversation. She is clearly in agony over this 180 I have put us on. She is clearly also in regret and rage mode. Nowhere close to remorse. On the other hand, it has done wonders for me. I am sleeping better. I am clear-headed when we talk. The entire time, I wasn't emotional or angry, and I am starting to see a way to a future without her. Very empowering. I told her by getting a new phone, she is actively working against restoring trust. I told her she still has no compassion for me and is still looking out only for herself. She says she is an NC, but something tells me she isn't. It seems like she has gotten over him a little too easily. I think her agonizing conversations with me is really cake eating and display. My conversation with OMW next week will unleash a bit of a test to the NC. Let us see. I made it clear that her first goal is NC and I hope she is sticking to it. I told her my first goal is control and mastery of my emotion and building up my psyche. I told her my moving downstairs was a part of that process, that I don't trust her and I refuse to let her hurt me again. I got gaslighting, I got rage, I got minimizing to the extreme, I got an alternative theory of how we could reconcile, I got an apology. Thanks to this forum, I looked through all of it. One thing is that I have stopped mincing words, and now call it an affair, and that she cheated on me. Her responses have been less reactive than they used to be. DS was supposedly on 2 weeks of NC, the kind of NC that involved her visiting him and letting him know she doesn't want to talk again. Well, this morning, I called OMW and let her know about the kept it to just the facts. She asked if I would call OM and conference her in. I politely refused, saying I wasn't emotionally ready for that situation. I did say that if she called him and conferenced me in, I'd be happy to talk. ES happened to call a few minutes earlier. Told her that I had talked to OMW. She couldn't get off the phone sooner. She obviously called OM despite the NC. She then calls me and accuses me of destroying someone else's marriage, of being unstable, of undertaking a disgusting act, of adding the last straw on our marriage, and that she is done with me. I don't know what to think. Have I just destroyed all chances of R? I feel like she wasn't really close to R anyway, and that we are only 2 weeks from DD, and the more I do to destroy the quickly, the higher the chances are that things will settle down later. I also feel more empowered because I am finally being a little more aggressive after years of being rolled over. She wasn't ready to R, she was busy rug sweeping and manipulating me into believing that she was sincere. Her actions today gave her away quite nicely. This may be the end of my I am quite okay with that. Perhaps a time for some background. My wife has no future with him. He is 63. She knows that. She knows that she is pissing away a beautiful life for this thrill. She admits to all this. She agrees that I am the best thing to happen to her, and she agrees that she is irrational and infatuated and selfish, etc. While being a classic WS, she is also being somewhat self-aware. Also, why am I still so invested? Because we used to be very close, and until her mom's death, we used to be on the same page. She has always been insecure about her age, her dyslexia, her body, and a half dozen other things. I am also invested because we have 2 kids young enough to be deeply influenced. I can see how this is a very disturbed person and don't want to abandon her. Update: I guess we are in the aftermath. She escalated by moving money out of an account. I am not worried, I am fairly well protected. She took my computer from my home office, not sure she is going to find anything of importance. She says she will file for a D. She continues to say this was the nail in the coffin. Broke 180 this morning and had a long conversation about telling OMW. Got a lot of blame shifting. I resisted and stood up for myself pretty well. I am beginning to see that there were some serious issues in our marriage, which are still not deal breakers. But seriously, I don't believe that she has the humility and selflessness to deal with a proper R. I don't think she even likes the new person she has turned me into. There is no future with this guy, and I still think this guy will turn and run from her. What I do know is that my wife will cut her nose to spite her face. She will file, even if only to get the last word. I have backed down so many times, I have to remind myself that this time, it was an affair, not some inconsequential argument about this or that. She walked out on the marriage. Game of chicken is over. Another update. I am starting to see some willingness to work with me, but all the classic signs are still there. She doesn't want to give me access to her phone because it is her business. She continues to minimize my feelings, suggesting that I am reading too much into the situation because I am reading too many online articles and books. She continues to suggest that the affair was a result of poor communication between us. She continues to be angry with me because I revealed to OMW. She says it is one person's opinion and that I am insisting on my path back, and it is too narrow. She has escalated on several fronts. She took my computer, moved money around, etc. I am sure you guys will see no remorse in any of this. Any positive signs here? Also, 180 has been going well, as hard as it is. I do keep failing the don't argue, walk away bit. I keep getting sucked into long discussions. I have learned to keep my cool while she has continued to be emotionally unpredictable. How do I learn to stay away from these discussions? She took my computer when I wasn't at home. Not sure what she plans to do with it, likely trying to get at what I know about OM's previous, as she doesn't want the OMW to know about them. She is so irrational right now, she doesn't even have her own interests in mind, much less mine. Is it ever too early to file? I know I sound like I am desperate to stay married, but I haven't found peace. The kids, I am continuing to 180, separating accounts. She says she is moving out next week. I said good. She equated my snooping on her and lying about not telling OMW to her affair. To be clear, I am not asking her to stay. I have said that I will not file for 2 months, just to give myself time. That doesn't mean I am waiting for her to come back. As for freezing accounts, she really cannot do much. I have statements going back years, and she can take the cash, but there are physical assets that will more than make up for what she can move around. I have talked to an attorney about this. I have made it clear that a complete NC, with full transparency, is the only way to an R. She is reluctant to go there. I cannot make it any clearer. I have also insisted that R includes proper MC. I have told her that all these things still don't guarantee that I will want to stay married to her ass. We will see. Need advice? Just got called by OMW for a copy of phone logs and text messages. I plan to redact all innocent parties' phone numbers on the statements. Anything else to remember to do? The text messages are extracted snippets from her phone log. Finally, my WW has been very touchy about info about a previous affair the OM had. She says she shared that detail with me in confidence, and that it would betray her trust in me. I know, if I shared it. However, one or two of her texts to OM mentioned the previous "do I remove that part, or let the crap fly." Please remember that even as foggy as my WW is right now, I am hoping for R at some point in the future. This exposure is clearly having the intended impact. I am going through 180, but as much as I'd like, there is still a part of me that wants my marriage to survive. I guess it is counterintuitive that what seems like a recipe for failure will actually give it the best chance of survival. I guess the pressure is getting to her. She spent 2 hours this morning talking. She says he genuinely wants to move on but threatened that sending the text to OMW would lead to our divorce. I did not back down but went with Chap's advice and offered to keep the other back in reserve. She wanted the whole enchilada. She said sending any texts would end OM's marriage and he would feel obligated to pick up the pieces with him. I didn't back down. She is currently having a nervous breakdown. Cancelled all apps, asked me to arrange for the kids etc. likely histrionics. But it is hard to tell, the stress has been high on her. For now, I am not going to do anything. But I hear her offer full transparency and MC. Is this the mascara running capitulation we are supposed to be looking for? This gives me leverage and right now, it is one chance to defog her. It may not work. If it doesn't, I can still use it. She checked herself into a hospital. In a few weeks, we will know how hard her resolve is to move past this in the right way. Thanks to you guys, I know remorse from regret and reluctant R. I will keep you posted. I know there is a good chance that I will be back here posting a sob story. I know this, at best, is a Machiavellian win, not what a marriage needs. But at this point, I don't want to throw all my cards away on a dare. The monitoring starts again. I called OMW and told her of the affair. I said I would mail her texts and phone logs if she needed. I am told she has been giving him the third degree. There is apparently something very incendiary in the messages, and my wife, who never really signed up for proper NC with verification, feels her safety is at risk. Or OM's. At this point, I am trying to use this leverage to get as much defogging I can. Yes, it isn't that absolute capitulation, but I can still see the texts, and I can still test NC later. I can trickle truth too, if you will. I know this will rub a lot of you the wrong way, and I may be super naive, but I am going to do this a couple of weeks and see if she is really ready to put this behind her and start working on us. I am going through one of my darker days. I feel a bit cheap for having negotiated down on the texts. My WW seems to be backsliding on a few things. She plans to move out of the house. I don't believe she has stopped contact yet. She is not ready for transparency. I have told her I will file if she doesn't stay in the house. I am really sad about the kids now. They are already children of a broken marriage and the cycle has continued one more generation. What I am most scared of now is that I will have to deal with my ex-wife's craziness and instability from a distance. She will hurt the kids, and even if I provide a safer home myself, I will still be dealing with her crap. There are so many more stories of recidivism in Wayward than complete turnarounds. Said, it was hysterics. I thought I had posted an update. She was at the hospital, she is a physician. Had a panic attack. A full package is going out this week. 2 things have changed. My wife says she needs to move out of the house for a few days. And 2, she said she didn't care if I sent the whole package, because she isn't friends with OM anymore. I sometimes feel like the defogging has begun, and my wife is saying a few things in the right direction. But I continue to see a lot of blame shifting, rationalization etc. She is still not prepared for total transparency. She isn't putting kids first. It is still all about her. 50% chance of filing in 2 weeks. This chick still thinks I am not serious. I think the Owen previous affair is either family friend or there is a child involved. My W indicated that his sons, who are adults, are capable of harming him. I now think that is a ruse. My WW has only had one affair. The OM has had past affairs and is desperate to keep them secret. I am sending out the whole package of texts. Since my last update, my wife says they have had cut things off, and she is ready to move on. I am not informing her of anything. I have made it clear that if she doesn't go on a family trip that was planned months ago, I am filing. Same with her moving out. She is the bigger breadwinner, but not only. The common accounts are well protected. She can only move some smaller cash amounts around, which I have too. I have talked to attorney, which he found out because Addie came recommended by mutual friend. Not going on vacation, which was already planned and is for the kids, with 2 other families, will be free license for her to meet OM if it is still in. Moving out to an apartment will be the same. At least this way, unexplained absences can remain an issue. I agree, I am not reading anything into her words. Her actions are slowly starting to change. So, apparently, OM threatened to mess up my world if I continue messing with him. I am still working on the package of logs and texts, but any suggestions at this point? Is there a reason to not send a physical copy, but offer to show her everything at a coffee shop? Legally speaking, wife brings up the texts a lot now, says I am prolonging the pain, hurting OMW, etc. All this while I neither confirm or deny or say anything about anything. She is closer to remorse than any time in the past. I feel like I hold the cards right now. My call to OMW has had its intended effect. OMW and OM are focused on each other right now. For now, the WW sounds like she is on track back. There have been 1 or 2 mascara running incidents. My 180 is fairly well in place, but with room for her to talk to me. I know she continues to be anxious about the texts I hold. The OM is scared that I will reveal everything and has stayed away AFAICT. As of today, the WW has agreed not to move out and to join the kids and me on vacation. I think I am getting what I want right now. Of course, this might all fail, but I'd feel better with an ace or 2 in my hand. Update on where I stand. WW, clearly not in remorse. Blame shifting, rationalizing, minimizing, grandstanding, whatnot. The affair has stopped, paused. There is no contact per my monitoring. OM's threats helped turn her away. She still feels guilty that her texts to OM, now in my hands, may lead to a lot of pain and suffering for OMW and OM. I have not told her anything about whether I have sent them or not. I fully intend to get the information to OMW, currently unsure about putting it in the mail versus meeting F2F. 180 and constant pressure from me about the ridiculousness of her positions on marriage and her behavior are driving her crazy. My insistence on her going on the trip and not moving out were designed to increase the pressure. I am not blackmailing her to do anything. I know I cannot force or coerce her into remorse. I can pressure test her commitment to the family, however. Few months later, for my WW, she is inching ever closer to remorse, but I am not sure where we stand. There are many hopeful signs. She accepts full responsibility for the affair and doesn't blame our relationship for it anymore. She says she is committed to our marriage and doing everything it takes. She says she now realizes how much she stands to lose and how stupid it all was. She has given me full access to her phone, accepted a block on her phone to his numbers. I have access to all her email acts, etc. She has agreed to and does share her agenda for the day. She is an NC, but we haven't done the formal letter thing. She has agreed to the painful but necessary step of full disclosure. She has already shared a lot more info but hasn't quite divulged everything. She admits to being intimidated by me and feels like I may fly off the handle. But she has agreed not to move out of the house and to go on this trip next week. I have agreed to put our conversations on hold during the trip to ease her anxiety, if nothing else. She says she is open to counseling, but that she believes it will not help. I don't think she is open, at the moment, to do the hard work of introspection, and I see. While her words and actions show some remorse, I am struck by the fact that the texts are still a trigger for her, and she is upset that I will not rule out sending the full package. I am also struck by her somewhat casual attitude towards the situation. She has heard me talk about extraordinary precautions around NC, but balks at some of it. So, where am I? Early R, false R. Given the early signs, should I continue my patchy 180 and do better? Or do I allow more communication? I continue to work on the personal side of 180. A D plan is in place. I am working on a timeline that puts IC and MC as deal breakers. I have thought through a move plan and a plan for custody. The financials are stable and in control. I guess my cue is this early R and how do I approach it? She isn't staying because I have the texts. There was no future with the guy. Some defogging has left her pretty clear about what she had to lose and how stupid it was. Right now, she is negotiating. I want to be tough, yet keep the dialogue going. I feel like a full 180 at this point will only push her away. Her early steps seem genuine. I do realize that having the texts hanging over her is detrimental to her full-hearted focus on fixing issues. She is in rug sweep mode right now. Final update. Her remorse isn't 100% textbook, and I do feel somewhat vulnerable about it. We are about 4 months from D-Day. While she hasn't come all the way to where I'd like her to, she has come 95% and is doing almost everything else right by me and our family. I listen better without trying to fix her issues. I don't nag her about her spending, which was never really that bad. I make sure we schedule quality time for ourselves. I tell her she is beautiful and attractive, which she is. I have stopped being whiny and clingy. I make it a point to be more positive and cheerful. I tell her what I am feeling, thinking, wondering. I have backed off my 50 miles per week running habit, down to 30. Perhaps most importantly, I don't believe my wife and my marriage is worth saving at all costs. I now know I will survive and thrive without her, but I choose to stay with her because she makes me a better person and for our kids. My comment, I think the second story still has a chance to survive. However, the first one might be a bit too difficult. What do you guys think? Comment down and I work on another one soon.